Hello everyone, welcome to MedEdge Simplified. We are going to start a series of lectures on high-altitude medicine. Today in the first lecture, we are going to learn environmental challenges of high altitude. The high-altitude, HA environment exposes us to many stressors, principal among which are hypobaric hypoxia, cold, low humidity, and increased ultraviolet UV radiation. The most important stressor by far is hypobaric hypoxia. This induces a marked systemic response, introduces the risk of illnesses unique to high altitude, and reduces individuals' physical work capacity and endurance for the duration of stay. Sojourn at HA may also aggravate pre-existing diseases such as coronary artery disease, bronchial asthma, thrombophilias, etc. Hypobaric hypoxia, low environmental temperature, low absolute humidity in the atmosphere, increased solar and ionizing radiation. Any of the stressors listed above could be a cause of illness at high altitude. Hypobaric hypoxia, barometric pressure, decreases with increasing altitude, reducing the partial pressure of oxygen in ambient inspired and alveolar air. There is no change in concentration of oxygen in air per se. Low environmental temperature. The ambient temperature falls by 1 degree centigrade for every 150 meters, or approximately 500 feet ascent. Winds or breeze further decreases body temperature, known as wind chill factor. Low absolute humidity in the atmosphere. This increases the insensible water loss from the body, for example through respiration, and predisposes to dehydration. Increased solar and ionizing radiation. UV radiation increases by 4% with every 300 meters, approximately 1,000 feet ascent, and can harm the eye and skin. Illnesses directly attributable to hypobaric hypoxia are called high-altitude illness, or HAI, and based on duration of stay to occurrence are classifiable as acute HAI, for example, acute mountain sickness, AMS, subacute HAI, for example, high-altitude pulmonary hypertension, HAPH, which may also occur in a chronic form, and chronic HAI, for example, chronic mountain sickness, CMS. Cold exposure may lead to chilblains and frostbite. These and other illnesses are discussed in detail in the section on altitude-related medical problems. How does your body survive at high altitude? The human body responds to high altitude by certain systemic changes starting immediately on ascent and continuing over hours, days, weeks, and months. This response helps us to live and perform better at high altitude and is known as acclimatization. Acclimatization is reversible upon descent to lower altitudes. Continuing acclimatization at a given altitude will lead to A. Reduced risk of acute high-altitude illness, B. Reduced risk of acute HAI on further ascent, C. Improved individual work endurance. However, the peak work capacity never recovers to sea level values. The rate and magnitude of the acclimatization response depends on the rate of ascent to high altitude and the actual altitude attained. There is considerable variability in these responses between different individuals. The failure of adequate acclimatization responses or an exaggerated response can both lead to HAI. For example, a blunted ventilatory response to hypoxia or an exaggerated rise in hemoglobin at high altitude can predispose an individual to AMS and CMS respectively. The time course of the reversal of changes of acclimatization is not well documented but may take from hours to days, weeks, and maybe months. For example, the upregulated hypoxic ventilatory response seen with stay at HA may reverse in hours to days, whereas the increased hemoglobin values and hematocrit seen at HA in all probability decline over weeks to months.